He's one of the biggest private landlords in Detroit, picking up cheap homes at the tax auction and finding families to fill them.
But the horrible condition of some of those homes has the attention of the 7 investigators. And tonight, our own Ross Jones digs into the company the tenants say is preying on defenseless Detroiters.
Latricia Hill spent years searching for a home where she and her family could feel comfortable. And on this quiet street in Detroit, she thought she finally found it.
Everybody get their own space. First time in life. So we were excited about it.
She was able to afford the home through Section 8 housing, a federal program that helps low-income families pay their rent. And for $1,100 a month, Latricia and her family lived here near 8 Mile in Wyoming. For the mother of 4, the home was a dream fulfilled.
When was the first problem?
The first day that I moved in.
Until she lived in it.
Water started spewing out of the floor. The power would go out all the time. We have a really, really, really bad spider issue in this house.
Everything that could go wrong did. And even though she wasn't paying for it, Latricia said the home still found a way to cost her plenty.
I was crying maybe a week in and begging them to please take this house back.
The company responsible for the home is Detroit Property Exchange. Its owner, Michael Kelly, is one of the city's biggest private landlords. In lawsuits, his tenants say he makes a living by cutting corners, cycling Detroiters into his vast inventory of dilapidated homes, often failing to properly fix them up. Melissa Oceani, one of Kelly's employees, saw it firsthand.
Everything we had done in that house, we had done so quickly and so cheaply that you touch it and it falls apart.
Melissa worked for Detroit Property Exchange as a maintenance manager. The company's business model, she says, is simple. Pick up dilapidated homes at the county tax auction, put little, if any, money into them, and find a tenant desperate enough to sign on the dotted line.
All they have to do is make it look good, put a little paint over here, a little caulking over here, and pass inspection.
In Latricia's case, Detroit Property Exchange still got paid, even though the problems weren't being fixed. That was until she complained to the Detroit Housing Commission, who inspected the property twice and concluded it wasn't up to code. Now, unless the property is fixed by the end of the month, she and her 4 children need to be out or risk losing their Section 8 voucher.
To think you can throw that tiny little bit of money at something and get so much back in return on the backs of other people.
They're creating large amounts of instability. And that's the greatest damage that they do.
Joshua Akers is an assistant professor at U of M Dearborn who studied speculators like Michael Kelly and the role they've played in the city's housing crisis.
Low-income residents are left with a series of bad choices. They're often looking for housing that is held by people who are intentionally withholding repairs, that are intentionally trying to just extract rents and milk properties.
Detroit Property Exchange picked up this home on Manor Street for $1,000 in 2015 after Dorothy King lost it to foreclosure. They offered to rent it back to her for $500 a month. Now a tenant, Dorothy says she kept making monthly payments, even in the months the home had no hot water, the basement flooded, and holes in the roof grew larger. Repairs came slowly, she says, if they came at all.
I feel like they're using somebody.
Are they using you?
Yeah. They get my rent money and won't fix up nothing.
And on the same street, just a few houses down, we found a different home managed by Detroit Property Exchange, but the same story. Holes in walls everywhere, the ceiling in several rooms collapsing. But Darlene Spells couldn't afford to move elsewhere and didn't want to leave her family nearby. Out of fear she might be evicted if she complained, she kept making payments.
I didn't want to get in no trouble where they could put me out. I didn't know the ins and the outs of the system, so I never did nothing.
As the home fell into further disrepair, Darlene says Detroit Property Exchange came to her, saying they'd sell her the house for $1. But it wasn't out of goodwill, says Melissa Oceani, but out of liability. Now the money Darlene would have paid in rent can go towards fixing the problems that were never addressed.
Mr. Kelly, good morning.
We tried repeatedly to speak with Michael Kelly through both text and phone calls. He never responded. Through a lawyer, he declined an interview. We caught up with him last week as he was walking into work.
How do you respond to those who say you are profiting off of the backs of poor Detroiters?
We provide home ownership to a lot of people.
Homes that don't have heat, that have holes in the roof? Are those homes?
Kelly cut short our interview, but in an email, his attorney would tell us, while it is our goal that every customer enjoy their experience with our company, that is not always the case. adding that unexpected and persisting property maintenance issues are a reality in this business. As for Melissa, she left the Detroit Property Exchange in September, ashamed, she said, of her role in a company that put profit over people.
Just because it's legal does not mean that it's okay to do. It just means that you got away with it, and that's what has to stop.
Well, Michael Kelly is currently the subject of a class action lawsuit claiming he lures vulnerable Detroiters into predatory contracts. But because of all the properties he owns, has Kelly become too big to fail? Tonight on 7 Action News at 11, why did the city dismiss more than 800 blight tickets linked to Kelly's properties and more than $1 million in back taxes, penalties, and fees? That's part 2 of our investigation tonight on 7 Action News at 11.
Well, can't wait to see that, because I thought the mayor was putting an end to practices like this and Detroiters.
Well, they started doing
on.
inspections last year for rental properties, but there's a lot of rental properties on a lot of zip codes, and they can't get to all of them. And indeed, the ones they haven't gotten to are able to remain in this kind of shape. And boy, we saw some unbelievable properties.
Which is the pictures you show there.
Right, and people are living in them. We'll look forward to the report at 11. Ross,
Wow.
thank you.